Touche.
I resemble that statement. Well, anyhow, good morning, everyone. Yes, here we are, the last Sunday, oh my goodness, of March. The last Sunday of March. You know, when we say good morning, we've talked about this as ministers. We would just love to say, good morning, dear ones. And hope you don't feel that it's strange that we think of you, that you're known as dear ones here in this house of faith. Yeah, you know, this sanctuary, people who come here, we want everyone who comes here to feel and know that they're surrounded by prayer. You see, every morning at 10:15, we've told you this before, I'm sure. At 10:15, our practitioner team goes into a special little place back here. It's called the Oneness Room. And we lock the door. We break out the bar. Oh, no. We, in all seriousness, we sit in contemplation and we acknowledge in prayer for all who come today that you and all of us are held in the embrace of a divine presence that's activated right here, right now, in this very room. We start out with a meditation. We carry that approach with that feeling, that presence, all the way through the whole music into the message of the morning. And so we just say, welcome, dear ones. We're glad you're here today. Is there anyone visiting us for the very first time? Very first time? Yes. Hi. Welcome. Ruth, there's a very first time packet that's ready for this. Wonder, is that dog's name? Quincy. We need two of them, one for the Quincy and... Okay, right there. Anyone else? I think there's someone here for the second time, is there not? Welcome. We're glad you came back. We're glad we didn't scare you off. Okay, what's coming up next here? Oh, you know, we need to cover a couple things very quickly. The announcements next week, well, we always say this, next week, the next person to be speaking is going to be a topic that says, say yes to yes. It's done by Reverend Don Kerr, and he doesn't have any idea what that's going to be about, so don't ask him. So, hey, there's a book study going on. Study What's in the Way and Is the Way. Oh, that sounds like a good one. By Molly G. Maley. And I'm reading this without my glasses, but it's going to start here at Woodland Chapel on Thursday, April the 14th, 2:30? 1:30, thank you. You know, it's great if you get corrected around here, just like that. The facilitator is Donna Stevens. She'll take care of that. And there's a little comment here about masks. As you know, it says we are, what's it say here? Oh, no longer required to wear face mask. However, Woodland Chapel encourages you to do so if you wish, and we're going to leave that up to your discretion. But, you know, when we talk to each other, let's don't stand in front of each other and spit on each other. Let's give each other some distance and talk, okay? That'd be helpful too. All right, why don't we move right along with the morning? Shall we? Yes.
Of course, I want you to stand because that's how we do it most of the time. And we're going to add some sign language or some hand signs today. The first one is for love. You've done this before, love. And then light. And then peace. And joy. So I'll be showing you and doing that along with you as we sing and start this morning.
So the first one is love. We let the love We let the love wash over us. We let it be. With light, we let the light wash over us. We let it be. With peace, we let the peace wash over us. We let it be. With joy, we let the joy wash over us. We let it be. Amen. 3 times. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Beautiful.
Good morning. See all these sweet, smiling faces out here. I was shrieking with joy. Okay, if we could just take a moment and close your eyes if you wish, and settle into this one perfect moment we call now. Just knowing that there is one power, one joy, one life. And I am one with that power. And as I know this to be true for myself, I know it to be true for each person here celebrating in this sanctuary, or those who've chosen to join us through the magic of internet, or those who've chosen another path of joy today. As I settle in and as I acknowledge the beauty of this morning, I see the trees budding up, and it brings the shower of blessings into my life. I know this service is perfect, and each heart is open, and lives are changed. Each person expresses and receives what they need for this moment, and take it out into the world with love and joy. And I bless those who are in need today or have the appearance of need in their lives. They too are blessed. And we encircle each one with arms of love. I'm grateful to be celebrating with this group of like-minded people who've gathered here today. I know that this is manifest in such beautiful ways, and for this I am very grateful. And with this joy in my heart, I simply release this word into the law that always says yes. And together we say, and so it is. And if you would turn with me to the affirmation. Celebrating our love of Spirit in community enriches each of us and multiplies the blessings. And so it is.
Good morning, everyone. Today's reading is entitled Union of One, and it's on page 62 of Science of the Mind magazine. First, I would like to read two quotes to you. The first one is by Marianne Williamson, and it says, "Love is the essential reality and our purpose on earth. To be consciously aware of it, to experience love in ourselves and others is the meaning of life." And the second one is from Ernest Holmes, Science of the Mind magazine, or Science of the Mind book, page 331. "We are guided daily by divine intelligence into paths of peace, wherein the soul recognizes its source and meets it in joyful union, in complete at-one-ment. The purpose of this life is love. The greatest source of love is the storehouse of spirit and the one infinite power that is the source of all things, and I am one with it. There is a joyful union of the soul in me and the divine light. I am exactly where source begins and where it ends, and it is exactly where I am at all times. I am consciously aware of my unity with its wholeness and see the creative intelligence bringing to life this moment through me. My soul is encompassed with gratitude and love, and the life I live is a glorious one. I let Spirit demonstrate through me a loving and luxurious life. A heavenly union of peace and joy expands my mind and exhilarates my pulse. My undistracted awareness gives this moment all of its meaning, and my essential reality is what God creates through me. Every part of me awakens to the guidance of the brilliant mind, and I peacefully find the path to love. The delivery system of infinite wonder works perfectly for me. I am at peace and in love with the vibrancy of who I am called to be and what I am asked to do. And in my joyful union with the allness of life, I am in complete at-one-ment with my highest self. And our affirmation is, my greatest source of love is Spirit, and I am in perfect union with my soul. Thank you.
This is a song that touched my heart and very deeply the first time I heard it. It's by Miranda Lambert, so it's not really a church song, but it's a song about sometimes we need to go back home to heal. I know they say you can't go home again. I just had to come back one last time. Ma'am, I know you don't know me from Adam, but my handprints on the front steps, they're mine. And up those stairs in that little back bedroom is where I did my homework and I learned to play guitar. And I bet you didn't know, under that live oak, my favorite dog is buried in the yard. I thought that I could touch this place, so feel it. Well, this brokenness inside me might start healing. Out here it's like I'm someone else. I thought that maybe I could find myself. If I could just come in, I swear I'll leave. I won't take nothing but a memory from the house that built me. Mama cut out pictures of houses for years, from Better Homes and Garden magazines. Plans were drawn, concrete poured, nail by nail and door by board. Well, Daddy gave life to Mama's dream. I thought if I could touch this place or feel it, this brokenness inside me might start healing. Out here it's like I'm someone else. I thought that maybe I could find myself. If I could just come in, I swear I'll leave. I won't take nothing but a memory from this house that built me. When you leave home, you move on, and you do the best you can. When I got lost in this old world and forgot who I am, I thought if I could touch this place or feel it, well, this brokenness inside me might start healing. I think that I could find myself, if I could find myself. If I could walk around, I swear I'll leave. I won't take nothing but a memory from this house that built me. Built me.
Manage this guy. Good morning. Good morning. Wow. So, yeah, in your bulletin, is this really echoing? In your bulletin, it says under message, so happy together. And I really like that. So that we can be happy together. It's not what I'm talking about, but I like that idea. And I know a lot of people watch messages online, and I think that is really great that we have that opportunity because, like if you're from a small town somewhere and you don't have a church to go to, or you're from a rural area, or you just want to sleep in, there's that way. But I got to tell you, there is just something about being in person, in community, the energy. It's different. We can't quite get that through the internet, but so I am always just so happy to be here with you. And today, and the next two Sundays that I speak, and they won't be in consecutive order because that's kind of how we arranged speakers here, I'm going to be talking about the Easter season. And, it's one of the most sacred seasons on the Christian calendar, on the Christian liturgy. And I think it's such a wonderful time of year too. But growing up Mormon, I always loved Easter. I grew up in a Mormon family. I actually never converted, but I grew up in a Mormon family, and Easter bunny and chocolate and the basket, and I loved Easter. Who wouldn't? You wake up in the morning and the Easter bunny has come. And there was no crucifix and no emphasis on being saved. And, it was just this Easter egg hunt and a new dress and going to church. And then I converted to Catholicism as a teen. And then there was crucifixes everywhere. And the emphasis that I got was really very much on the crucifixion and suffering. And then I became a New Thought minister. And I didn't know what to do with Easter. Yeah, I was opposed to suffering. But no, I didn't know what to do with Easter. I mean, I think, and in New Thought, we don't have a lot of rituals, do we? And I think there's something in us that loves rituals and that loves celebration and loves to have those symbols. Because a symbol is what is it? It's a external experience of something internally happening. And so I think what we did as New Thought communities, we appropriated Easter a little bit like the Christians appropriated some of the pagan holidays, and made them our own, which is okay. And I do love it, and I love the traditional songs and all that. And here at Woodland Chapel, we have an Easter celebration, and Reverend Moore will be back from his vacation and be here for Easter, and there's generally some ritual, and it's beautiful. It's really pretty. But we don't celebrate the traditional Easter story. And so I have come to value that Easter experience. So it took me a long time. It took me a long time to evolve out and evolve into the way I see this new story. And I'll tell you my approach to Easter. And my approach is I value scholarship, this biblical scholarship and Jesus scholarship. And so that is the basis of where I come from. And these scholars are my guides through these scriptures and through these centuries. And then, of course, my own personal experience had to happen with the stories. Otherwise, they were just stories, which are great, but they're just stories unless they become meaningful to us. And so I came to approach Jesus from a new direction, and I kind of liked him. And of course, really, truly nothing, very little, I won't say nothing, but very little is really known about the historic Jesus. What we get in the scriptures is not history and it's not biography, because that's not what first century people did. Those are faith stories. And that's perfectly valid and perfectly good. They're faith stories. And so we read in them the Jesus of faith, the Jesus of the faith of the people who were his followers. And today I'm going to jump the gun on the liturgical calendar and talk about Palm Sunday. Palm Sunday isn't actually until April 10th, but I don't get to speak in a series, so I have to do the best I can. So, today will be our Palm Sunday. And so Palm Sunday, let me say, it happened and it didn't happen. Which is true for a lot of those stories. They didn't happen maybe historically exactly like this said they happened, but they happened in the hearts of the people who were followers. Okay? And a lot of them were like created, because these were Jewish people originally. They were created to prove to them the importance of this individual. And so many of the prophecies in the Old Testament were overlaid on Jesus' life to show how important he was. Now, for us, it's like, that can't be real. But for them, it was real. We just don't think in the same context. So, I grew up in a Mormon family, and I love to go to church. Even as a little kid, I loved to go to church. And truth is, I learned more about Joseph Smith than I ever did about Jesus. And it was celebrating the pioneers and all of that moved to Utah and all that. So, and I never converted because even a little kid, I was like, I'm not sure I believe this. But see, Joseph Smith was somebody who became a prophet to these people that followed him. And I got to tell you, in the 19th century, particularly early 19th century America, there were a lot of this going on and a lot of new groups forming around a lot of charismatic leaders. So Joseph Smith said, he wrote this called the Book of Mormon that he got from the angel Moroni on these golden plates. And I just okay, it wasn't for me. But so I didn't believe that. And whatever you believe about Joseph Smith, that's okay, because you see what happened out of that. And I came to realize that particularly in recent years, as I go back every year to family reunion in southeastern Idaho around with all my Mormon relatives. And sometimes I go to church with a cousin, was out of this. And I don't want to say this, but I will say this. I thought Joseph Smith was unusual. But it doesn't really matter, because as time has gone on, out of this individual has grown this huge religion. And what I know about it is it doesn't matter who started it. It has evolved into something that has served these people. And I have cousins who have this sweet, deep faith and spiritual experience grounded in their Mormon faith. So does it matter? Does it matter? And so the same with Jesus. I'm not saying he was like Joseph Smith, because I don't really know that. But out of this individual grew this religion, this worldwide religion that has, had such a profound effect. And on us too. We're part of this culture, and it is part of our experience in many ways. So, I don't believe the Christian Gospels are history, but I do believe there's much value to be found there. And see, it's all about our faith. And what was the purpose? In the reading, she talked about love. Our purpose here in love. Well, what is that different than when Jesus was asked, what is the most important thing? To love God, to love your neighbor, and to love yourself. And guys, that's not easy, is it? It's really easy to say we really like it, and we really get it, and it's a journey. The whole thing is a journey. But see, that was what he said. What is most important? Not that you believe that I am God. And I'm not going to get into a whole lot of biblical stuff here, but that was the teaching. That was the teaching, grounded in that. And so Palm Sunday comes. Well, we call it Palm Sunday. I'm sure he didn't call it Palm Sunday. But it's a time that they were celebrating the Passover in Jerusalem. And the Passover is the time, of course, when Jews celebrated their liberation from the Egyptians. Very important festival, even to this day. And here's the thing about rituals and celebrations. Jewish people celebrate the Passover to this day, reminding themselves of their escape from Egypt. And it is something that binds them together as community, this memory, this ritual. So we have whatever it is that's our memory and our ritual that binds us together. And that's why these celebrations are really important, I think. So they're having a Passover time in Jerusalem, which was major chaos, because that's where the temple was. And people came from all over to celebrate Passover, and there were animals being slaughtered, and there was everything. And, it was major chaos. And, of course, the Romans didn't like major chaos. They wanted to keep order, and they were really watching out for everybody. They had troops there. They didn't have guns like we do. They had whatever they had. I wondered about that. Swords, maybe? I don't know what they had. Anyway, they were alert to any trouble. They were alert to any trouble. And so here comes Jesus. And I never can figure out if he was a deep man of faith or completely foolhardy. But he went to Jerusalem. Was he courageous or was he foolhardy? And because, see, Jesus wasn't unknown. He had all these followers. People actually knew who he was. And the priest, the high priest in Jerusalem didn't like him because he socialized with women. And all these guys ate together in ways that they shouldn't eat together, because eating together was really important. And he healed people on Sunday, or well, I guess it was Saturday. Well, I actually don't know what day of the week it was, but whatever day was their Sabbath. I know that the Jewish Sabbath is Saturday, but who knows what it was in the first century is what I'm trying to say. So they didn't like him. The Romans were alert to him because, see, it was mostly a peasant society, and they were, the Romans were in charge of them, had overrun them, had done what they did. And so there were a lot of little skirmishes like happens, and they weren't going to have that happen. So here comes Jesus. I don't know what he did. He caused some kind of ruckus, or the people around him weren't well behaved. I mean, after all, they weren't actually of the highest class. And so he got arrested. See, all in all, it would have been safer for Jesus to avoid this Passover celebration. But he came for whatever purpose he had, and he was arrested. And so for me, as I reworked these stories, I was like, oh, for me, this journey to Jerusalem came to mean courage. It came to mean courage, a courage of my own convictions. And I began to see it in that way. How to live authentically. How to be who you are and do what you need to do regardless of the consequences. Regardless. So Passover was a celebration of freedom. And what I know, and so Jesus' journey I see into Jerusalem at that time was one of courage. Was one of courage. And to be totally free, we have to walk our own journey into Jerusalem. We have to walk our own journey of courage. To be authentic, to be true to ourselves. And that's harder than we might think. Because we can sit in our houses and know what we think and rant and rave at the television and all that. But then to actually go out and stand for something. It really takes courage, doesn't it? And to look deeply within, for most of us, actually takes more courage than going out and standing for something. Meister Eckhart, the 12th, 13th century mystics, said this: human beings should turn their will to God in all their activities and keep their eyes on God alone, marching along without fear and without hesitancy about being right or not doing anything wrong. For if a painter wanted to consider every stroke of his brush when he made his first stroke, no picture would ever result. To march along without fear and hesitancy. And last week or 2 weeks ago, I was watching CNN, and Anderson Cooper was interviewing this American doctor, I think it was emergency room doctor, who decided to set aside his practice here and go to the Ukraine, which is pretty dangerous. And as he began to talk about it and began to talk about what was motivating him, it was one of those things. I love things like that because they make me feel so good and they make me want to go out and do something, like change the world or something. But it was so inspiring. And I got to think about other things that people have done that take courage. And today is, I wrote it down, 57. I had to do the math 3 or 4 times. But the 57th anniversary of the march, not today, March, the month of March. The 57th anniversary of the march from Selma to Montgomery. And the courage that took for all those people, because they got major beat up by the powers that be. And they knew they would before they went. And there's many, many stories about that, the courage. But you see, without those moments of courage that each one of us are invited to, things wouldn't change. And Spirit moves. I believe Spirit moves in us. I believe Spirit moves in some people who are more public to take their own walk to Jerusalem. And so, most of us are not going to do things like that. Maybe some of you were there. Maybe some of you have done things like that. But for most of us, that is not probably what we're going to do. But, that facing ourselves and our daily walk can require courage. Facing the criticism of others. When I go to these family reunions, and I love these family reunions, and I adore my relatives. But there's this one relative that is a challenge, this couple. And so on Facebook, I know I should stay off Facebook. It's like, stay off Facebook. But, somebody had posted something about Black Lives Matter, and then she came along and said, well, all lives matter. And of course, all lives do matter. And then there was something else she said, because. And so I had to respond. I was really nice, by the way, you guys. I was really nice. But I said, you don't understand. And then I said, I don't understand either, because I have not been there. Look where we are, Portland and Salt Lake City. I mean, we don't understand. Well, I included myself because it's true. I don't. But of course, she took offense. And so the next summer at the reunion, she had this T-shirt. She and her husband had these blaring T-shirts and pointed at us from the far right conspiracy theory thing. And anyway, so I thought, okay, well, our oldest daughter was so nice. She went up and hugged them and everything, which, I thought, wow, that takes courage. Because, because you could get really ticked off at that T-shirt. I mean, it was so outrageous you almost couldn't. But, to stand, to say something, and we like to stay nice. And we don't like to ruffle any feathers, particularly at family reunions. But to speak, for me to speak what I thought, I don't know if it took courage or just orneriness in that case. I mean, I can't tell. But I do know that for our daughter to go up and embrace those who didn't like us, I thought that took real courage. Or maybe it was easy for her because that's how she is. But, little things like that, everyday things. Now, I could not say anything, and maybe that would take more courage than not, depending on your circumstances. But like everyday acts of courage to take a responsibility and be accountable. Sometimes that's hard, isn't it, to be accountable for something we've done? To have a voice that when we we need to say no, that we say no. That we're being true to ourselves and we're being honest. To tell the truth. To tell the truth. And see, this is the interesting thing about community, and I won't get into all the steps of community, but one of the steps for authenticity and for us to be close to one another is to be honest and vulnerable. To be vulnerable. That's hard, isn't it? What if we get rejected? These things are really hard. To take the step into the unknown. To quit your job because you know it's not right for you, and to move off into the unknown. These are things that take courage in everyday life. So, the Latin word, having gone to Catholic schools, we had to do Latin and Latin and Latin. I actually kind of like Latin, but the word for courage in Latin is, the word for courage comes from the word Latin, cor, for courage. Also, it means heart. It means heart. So heart and courage, the same thing. Our words coronary and all of that come from that same root word. It's about heart. Courage is really about heart. It is really about heart. It is caring enough to be courageous enough. So with this idea of heart, I'll just tell you a story. And this happened a few years ago. But there was so much heart for me. I don't know if it'll come across to you like it felt to. But Paul and I were in Sandy one time. We're just walking down the sidewalk. And there was this little old house and this guy sitting there in the window. And his door was open. So being who we are, we stepped in and started talking to him. And it was just kind of like this one room. It was a really old house. Very small, old house. And he was sewing. He was making baby bibs. And his wife was in a bed, a twin bed against the wall. It was just like one room. And he was there caring for her because she was bedridden. And they were old. And he was just a sweet, sweet person. And he's making these baby bibs to earn maybe a little extra money because he doesn't go out. He just stays there with her as his caretaker. I was so touched by that. I bought a bunch of baby bibs. Didn't have a baby anywhere around. But he had the courage. I felt the courage, heart, courage. To commit his life to caring for this wife who was ill. Now, he could have made other choices, I'm sure. And so he filled his time making these little articles. That touched me so much because the power of his courage that showed up as this love, I can to this, you know how you forget things over time? I can to this day see that room and see him and see her. Little things like that. I'm telling you, this is what it's about. I was so touched by his courage to be there for her. Easy? Probably not. So, what is your Jerusalem? Because we all have that. What is right and true for you right now? What is calling you to courage? Because I think about this and I think, oh, I am so courageous. But then I can go out and do things. That's not hard for me. But I'll tell you what's hard for me, slowing down and looking inside. Reverend Don talked about I'll rest when I'm dead. And I thought, oh my God, if that isn't true about me. Because to slow down, then what is there but me? And I had to figure that out. So maybe doing stuff out there is easy for you and we can fool ourselves. But going within might not be the easiest thing. And so this Easter season, I really walk this Easter season. I walk it in my own way. And the first part of it is my journey to Jerusalem. And so that is what I would ask you on this Palm Sunday, this story about this journey. What is it for you? Because there is something. There's something for you today if you stop and you look. There's something that happened today that will call for something courageous in you. And one of the things I know is like the reading, thank you so much, is that as we talk this walk, we don't take it alone. That spirit, that divine essence that expresses as us is us. However you want to call it, God, Spirit, doesn't matter. It walks with us. And it always says yes. And it always says yes. So we are never, never alone. Namaste.
This is a song called Holy Now. When I was a child each week, Sunday we would go to church, pay attention to the priest. He would read the holy word, consecrate the holy bread. Everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything's holy now. Everything's holy now. And when I went to Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the seas in two, and Jesus made the water wine. I remember feeling sad. Miracles don't happen still, but now I can't keep track. Everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small. An even better magic trick is there's anything here at all. And so the challenging thing that's done is not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, I'd barely wet my fingertips, but now I gotta hold my breath I'm swimming in a sea of it. I was living in a world half here, heaven's second-rate hand-me-downs. Now I'm walking with a reverent air. Everything's holy now. Everything is holy now. Everything's 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 holy now. Everything is holy now. Everything's holy now. And read a questioning child's face. Say it's not a testament. It's really very hard to say. And see another new morning's dawn. Say it's not a sacrament. I'm telling you it can't be done. This morning outside I stood. I saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush and singing like a scripture verse. Made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out, how things have changed since then. Now everything's holy now. Pray with me. Everything's holy now. Everything's holy now. Everything is holy now. Everything's holy now. Everything's holy now. Everything's holy now. Everything is holy now. Everything's holy now. Let's stand up and let them know. Everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Everything's holy now. Everything is holy now. Everything's holy now. Everything is holy now. Everything's holy now. Everything is holy. Holy now. Everything is holy now. Everything's holy now. Everything is holy now. Everything's holy now. Everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Everything, everything is holy now.
And so it is.
Okay. Okay, so.
Now's the time for our offertory.
Okay, I'll help with that.
Yes.
Would you come forward, Shannon and I?
We have an affirmation in your bulletin. Divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. So it is.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I am. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful
just am feeling so blessed this morning, and as I bless these gifts, I bless the givers of these gifts. And as I am so grateful for all that I have, I affirm that this is true and shall be true, and for all peoples, that all peoples will have enough, that all people will be relieved of suffering. And that we each be courageous enough to do our part. And perhaps it's just to pray. Perhaps it is in the gifts that we give financially. But we are all part of this one planet, this one global family. And as I am feeling so blessed, I speak my word for blessings for all peoples, all life forms. And so it is. And so let us stand as we affirm our blessings with the power of protection prayer, and then closing with this peace song. And as we really sing it in our hearts as a prayer for all those who are not living in peace in one way or another. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is